Hello, I'm Mark Ross, international headhunter, and if you're tired of the same old interview grind that never quite showcases who you are or what you're truly capable of, you're in the right place. Imagine walking into your next high-stakes conversation with a clear blueprint in one hand, one that highlights your achievements so convincingly you can almost see the decision makers nodding in appreciation. That's the power of the STAR method. And over the next 20 minutes, I know it's a long one, but stay with me. I'll show you how a simple 4-step framework can transform even the most scattered job history or complex role into a compelling story that leaves interviews saying, now, that's someone we need on our team. No more rambling answers, no more missed opportunities because you couldn't quantify your wins. Instead, you'll discover a crisp, proven way to articulate your worth. Whether you're aiming for a hidden high-level role or stepping into your very first career move. By the end of this video, you'll have the insights, the confidence, and the exact structure you need to stand out. So grab a notebook, make yourself a cup of tea, open your notes app, whatever makes you feel comfortable. This short session covered the difference between getting a polite "thanks, we'll call you" and landing an offer that fast-tracks your professional goals. Ready to dive in? Let's get started. So, if you've been following my work, and I hope you have, or you've completed any of my winning online courses, you know I'm fascinated by systems that simplify complex processes, particularly those that empower professionals to navigate high-stake interactions with greater confidence. And over the years, I've watched one particular technique rise from a relatively obscure HR concept to a widely recognized framework in interviews, the STAR method. While it's typically discussed in the context of job interviews, I've discovered it transcends conventional hiring processes and finds a home in unexpected corners, politics, teaching, even media soundbites. So here's an expansive look at its origins, how it evolved, why organizations swear by it, and above all, how it can radically boost your self-assurance and effectiveness in almost any high-pressure scenario. When people talk about behavioural interviews, they're referring to a style of questioning that tries to unearth how an individual has behaved in past situations, on the assumption that past behaviour is a good predictor of future performance. Among the most influential frameworks to emerge from this trend is the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. The precise birth of STAR is difficult to pinpoint to a single day or person, but it's wildly credited to the evolving needs of HR and recruitment professionals in the 70s and 80s who were searching for more systematic ways to evaluate a candidate's competences. By the late 1980s and 1990s, organisations like the Society for Human Resource Management in the US and the Chartered Institute of Personal Development in the UK began incorporating behavioural interview techniques into their recommended best practices. These organisations champion structured approaches that move away from unstructured gut feel interviews towards methods that could yield more reliable job-relevant information. And the STAR method became a mainstay in these guidelines, largely because it offers a clear, repeatable pattern of questioning and answering. Major corporations such as IBM, Procter & Gamble and Unilever have also played pivotal roles in popularising STAR. Their large-scale recruitment drives, graduate assessment centres and management training programs have historically leaned on behavioural interviews. Underpinning these efforts was the notion that consistent evidence-based hiring fosters a better team fit, reduces turnover, and improves performance across the board. And STAR thrived within this landscape, prized for its ability to transform vague "I'm a hard worker" statements into tangible, contextualized examples of true capability. So let's break down the 4 elements of STAR. Situation, the context, the backdrop. Task, the responsibility or objective at hand. Action, the steps taken to tackle the situation. And result, the outcome typically expressed as a quantifiable win or a lesson learned. And at first glance it might seem like a neat little formula for job interviews, and indeed it is, but once you see it in action, it becomes abundantly clear that STAR's strength is universal. Almost any scenario, whether it's leading a political campaign, managing a classroom, or answering questions on national TV, can be dissected into these 4 components. Ultimately, the structure ensures that you're logical, clear, and purposeful in your explanation. Now, I've worked with executives who had decades of experience yet felt uneasy in interviews. They tended to ramble or jumble from point to point. Introducing STAR to them was like giving them a blueprint, and they gained a sense of direction. Each story they told became grounded in a concrete situation, a clear task, the specific action they took, and the tangible result that followed. That simplicity is deceptively powerful. The aha moment arrives when they realize they can funnel the swirl of experiences in their head into a crisp 4-step story that resonates. Politics. Politicians, especially those well coached in public speaking, frequently adopt a structure reminiscent of STAR to tackle tough questions or highlight legislative successes. They might not label it STAR, but watch a skilled political figure respond to a question about crisis management or a policy rollout. Often they'll frame the situation, for example, a national shortage or critical resources, define the task, the government's mandate to address it, detail the action, the policies or interventions implemented, and then state the result, the improved metrics, reduced costs, or public satisfaction. The clarity of that narrative keeps them on message and helps the audience follow along without confusion. It's used in teaching and academia. You might see teachers use this method, particularly if they're defending a new curriculum approach or explaining how they handled a disruptive classroom event. Situation: I had a class of 30 students, half of whom struggled with reading comprehension. Task: my goal was to boost literacy scores by 100% by the end of the semester. Action: I introduced a peer-to-peer reading system, rotating advanced readers with those who needed extra help. Result: test scores increased by 15% and reading confidence soared. You see, this structure, educators speak persuasively at faculty meetings or during evaluations. We see it in media and interview settings. Ever watched a talk show host or news anchor pin down a guest on a tricky topic? Those who handle these questions deftly often respond with a version of the STAR framework, especially in crisis communication. They set up the context, define what needed to be addressed, explain the steps taken, and present the outcome, ideally in an easy to digest format. Media training experts coach high-profile figures in precisely this approach. Keep it structured, keep it relevant, and always circle back to the point you want the audience to remember. It wasn't just blind tradition that cemented STAR as the go-to method. Over the past few decades, multiple studies and HR white papers have validated the importance of structured behavioral interview. Harvard Business Review featured articles in the early 2000s touting the reliability of data-driven interviewing, pointing out that open-ended and structured interviews often led to biases. CIPD in the UK has repeatedly published guidelines suggesting that tying interview questions to real, verifiable experiences reduces subjectivity and allows for a better job fit. Psychology journals have consistently argued that individuals who can demonstrate contextual, story-based evidence of problem solving are far more likely to replicate that success in future roles. STAR sits firmly within that methodical tradition. It's a user-friendly tool that crystallizes complex stories into targeted, results-orientated narratives universally enough to apply to any domain where evidence-based demonstration of capability is needed. One of the greatest gifts STAR offers professionals, in my experience, is confidence. Too many people step into an interview or a high-pressure Q&A session feeling anxious and unmoored. They know they have relevant achievements but struggle to articulate them under the spotlight. That's where STAR becomes a lifeline. Psychological safety. Having a predefined structure to fall back on reduces the fear of forgetting key points. Narrative clarity. Humans respond to storytelling. By framing your achievements as a cohesive mini-story, you're more likely to capture attention and immediate relevance. Instead of reciting a generic list of skills, you anchor them in reality. Focus on strengths. If you carefully select examples that demonstrate your strongest suits, you build a mental library of success stories, fueling long-term self-assurance. Yet, there's a sobering flip side to this. Over my 2 decades in international headhunting, I've witnessed multiple cases where the best candidate on paper, someone whose skills, cultural fit and values align perfectly, lost out because they couldn't quantify or articulate their achievements in a concise, confident manner. I remember one particularly painful experience. A senior project manager with a sterling track record, precisely the kind of individual who embodied the hiring company's culture and strategic vision, fumbled key interview questions. He provided broad statements like, "I led a successful team," or "we improved our project timelines," but never backed them up with the specifics of how or by how much. Meanwhile, a less experienced candidate, though arguably a weaker match, had studied the STAR framework and rattled off crisp data-driven results. I reduced costs by 15% by introducing a new workflow. That's who ended up landing the role. I've seen it happen enough times and I'm no longer surprised, but it's a stark reminder that failing to quantify success can be the downfall of an otherwise ideal prospect. STAR isn't purely about interview performance. It can also serve as a reflective tool for problem solving and personal growth. When faced with a future challenge, professionals familiar with STAR often find themselves unconsciously using the same structure. Situation: what's really going on here? Task: what's my objective or responsibility? Action: which steps should I take to address this effectively? Result: what outcome am I aiming for and how will I measure success? By applying these questions, you transform a nebulous problem into a sequence of actionable steps. After the issue is resolved, you can look back and articulate what happened with pinpoint clarity. This cyclical process fosters stronger decision-making skills and better self-awareness, which in turn leads to more success stories you can share down the line. One of the hallmarks of this method is placing heavy emphasis on result. In my own headhunting work, I often talk about QER, quantifiable end result, because numbers and measurable outcomes leave no room for interpretation. If your result is we grew revenue by 20% year on year, or our volunteer retention rate jumped from 60% to 85%, that's far more compelling than just saying we improved revenue or volunteer retention got a bit better. A structured, measurable result is the final piece that cements your story as credible. It signals to the listener that you're not dealing in fluff. You've got legitimate, tangible proof. In sectors like finance, engineering, or data analytics, these quantifiable outcomes can be especially potent. But even in softer disciplines, teaching, community outreach, customer service, citing improved test scores, positive feedback percentages, or faster resolution times can make your case infinitely stronger. At a personal level, focusing on QER can enhance your sense of accomplishment. It's one thing to walk away from a project thinking, I did pretty well. It's another to say, I raised engagement by 42% within 3 months. That shift, attaching numbers to your achievements, does wonders for your internal confidence. It's a constant reminder that your actions have made a real, measurable impact. If you're wondering how to get started drafting your own STAR narratives, the process can be deceptively simple. Pick a relevant achievement, label each paragraph or bullet point with an ST, A and R, and fill in the details. And in a future lesson, I'll dive deeper into how to create a polished STAR response, complete with example templates and tips for matching your story to the company's needs. For now, think of this as a primer, a way to recognize the method's power and start brainstorming situations where you shine. Inventory your experiences, identify those pivotal moments where you overcame challenges or produced tangible results. Make them match to roles or industries. Make sure your scenarios resonate with the position or field you're targeting. Practice, practice, practice. Walk through your STAR responses verbally, smooth out any awkward phrasing, and ask for feedback. Sometimes a friend or mentor can catch gaps or unclear points you wouldn't notice otherwise. So, from politics to corporate boardrooms, from teaching to televised interviews, the STAR method has proven itself time and again as a succinct, powerful way to convey achievements. Though it originated within the HR discipline and behavioural interview circles, its structure holds universal appeal because it delivers clarity. For me, that clarity translates directly into confidence, tangible results, two qualities that can transform any professional narrative. And I can't stress enough how it helps you see your own capabilities in a new light. Most people have stories of resilience or creativity, but rarely frame them in such a crisp manner. STAR effectively hands you the script to present your achievements in a way that resonates with decision makers. After all, who wouldn't lean in when they hear that you handled a challenging situation, owned the responsibility, took strategic actions, and ended with a quantifiable positive outcome? Meanwhile, failing to articulate those details precisely, especially in high-stake roles, can cost even the most qualified candidates the opportunity they genuinely deserve. I've seen that time and time again. And that's why I champion STAR so vigorously. It levels the playing field so genuine skill sets can shine through, rather than being overshadowed by confident but less capable candidates who simply know how to talk the talk. If there's one universal takeaway from the hidden job market to the STAR method, it's this: structured approaches give you the advantage. In the hidden job market, you gain a competitive edge by proactively reaching out. In interviews or high-pressure Q&A sessions, you stand out by steering your experiences into a coherent, results-orientated story. In both cases, you're showcasing initiative, clarity, and a penchant for strategic thinking. So, whether you're prepping for a pivotal interview or reflecting on your professional evolution, consider weaving STAR into your approach. You'll find it doesn't stifle your individuality, it amplifies it, giving you a stable framework to let your uniqueness shine through. And when you tack on a QER at the end, you anchor your narrative in measurable achievements. That's your real trump card in a world where talk is cheap, proven results command attention. Now, appreciate you getting this far in the video. And if nothing else, I hope this deep dive into the STAR method and its far-reaching influence stirs you to experiment with it in your own professional journey. Remember, I'll soon be sharing a more detailed lesson on how to craft a great STAR story, complete with real examples and templates. So, before we wrap up, here's a quick recap of the key takeaways. Situation, task, action, and result. This structure helps you clearly convey your accomplishments in interviews and other high-stakes scenarios. From politics to teaching and media, STAR's logical format empowers anyone who needs to explain challenges and solutions. When you articulate specific outcomes, especially using QER, quantifiable end result, you reinforce your credibility and come across more self-assured. Even highly qualified candidates can lose out if they fail to quantify their achievements. STAR ensures your impact doesn't go overlooked. We'll dive deeper into building a polished STAR response in a future lesson, complete with real examples and proven tactics for tailoring each story to your audience. Thanks for joining me. Remember, clarity, structure, and measurable results can set you apart, no matter your field or your role. Onwards and upwards.